How we doing, folks? Your host Moose here on the Pitt Panthers Football Network as we welcome you to our national championship preview show because, of course, your Pitt Panthers emerged victorious over West Virginia 48-17 in the Rose Bowl, which was a college football playoff semifinal game, which means Pitt will be playing for the national title for the first time in this dynasty, led by a great performance from Kenny Pickett, 3 touchdowns, Sean Wolfgang, 4 sacks on the day as he set the NCAA career sack record. It was an incredible day from the Panthers. They went into halftime up 20-17, but put things away in the second half. No turnovers in the second half after 2 in the first half. They forced 2 turnovers from West Virginia after not forcing any in the first half. It led to them blowing out the Mountaineers 28-0 in the final 2 quarters en route to a 48-17 win. Jay Keys with a couple of touchdowns, and he threw a touchdown. Jay Keys with a touchdown, and he threw a touchdown. Paul Lease a couple of touchdowns. Kenny Pickett threw for 3 touchdowns. Just an incredible day all around. You can see the Panthers in the red zone. 6 trips, 5 touchdowns, 1 field goal. The rushing game was solid, 174 yards on the day, one of their better games this season. 320 passing yards for Pickett on just 32 attempts, 317 yards, so basically 10 yards per attempt. Easily one of his best games of the season, maybe even his best in terms of those statistics. 3 touchdowns, bounced back from an interception on the opening drive, and really had a great day. Of course, Jay Keys threw a touchdown as well on his only pass today. It was a halfback pass to Antonio Greer, 3-yard touchdown. So Keys, all he does is throw touchdowns from the quarterback position. Great game for him. Running back, both players had a nice game. They both ran for 4.8 a carry. London had 93 yards, Sibley 48 yards, but he did vulture a touchdown for the Panthers. Of course, London had an early fumble as well, which did put the Panthers behind the 8 ball a little bit, but great game nonetheless. Jay Keys, what more can you say about the guy? 6 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. He also threw a touchdown to Antonio Greer, who had probably his best game of the season, 4 catches. Paul Lease with 4 catches. Pitt really spread the football around. The big thing you can see on these statistics here, no drops. Todd Sibley did drop like a 40-yard pass to him, but otherwise not a single drop from the Panthers pass catchers, which is unbelievable because they were terrible in the couple of games prior. You'll remember Jay Keys had like 6 drops in the last 2 games, not a single drop in this one. Incredible day for the Panthers. Defensively, it was pretty much defense by committee with the exception of Wolfgang being the guy getting all the sacks. 4 sacks on the day. Darren Toth had 1, as did Malachi Bordeaux. So 6 sacks coming from the Pitt defensive line, but Sean Wolfgang terrorized that West Virginia offensive line. 4 sacks on the day. I think that's 48 now in his career, which is 1 behind Pitt all-time great Hugh Green's 49 sacks that are unofficially in the Pitt record book. 1 interception for Damian Vector. And the reason they're unofficial is because sacks weren't tracked by the NCAA at that time, but that's what Pitt has in their official record book is 49 sacks. So Wolfgang needs a sack if he wants to tie up Hugh Green's record. Pitt, of course, recovered a fumble as well. Wolfgang was the guy to do that. Avery Heller forced that. Damian Vector had an interception. Jay Bump was perfect on field goals and extra points. The kick return game in the 2 returns they had was very good. Scott Whaley, was good on his return game from punt returns. It was a great game all around. Pitt didn't give up a single passing touchdown. They did give up 2 rushing touchdowns, but on the whole, the rush defense was fairly solid. Plus, West Virginia got behind the 8 ball, and they had to try and pass. Steven Smothers led the way with 7 catches for 56 yards. Brandon Brown, 75 yards on 5 grabs. But I think Pitt did a great job of minimizing the opportunities West Virginia had. And then, of course, the timely sacks. The other Brandon Brown on West Virginia, though, had a horrific game. 4 sacks against. He's normally a left guard. He was starting at right tackle. And Sean Wolfgang turned him into mince meat. So a great game there for the Panthers. Jaquez Adams, the best defender for West Virginia, no doubt. 6 tackles, had a pick. A couple of deflections as well. Really nice day for him. And it was just one of those games where West Virginia wasn't terrible. They just didn't capitalize when they needed to, and Pitt forced them into some big turnovers. And on the other side of the spectrum, the Pitt Panthers will be facing off with Alabama after they knocked off Houston 35-17 in the Sugar Bowl. Hashtag it, we want Bama. We want Bama. So Pitt will be taking on Alabama. You see, it was a pretty close game to start off with, and then De'Aaron King threw 3 touchdown passes, including an 86-yarder to John Phillips in the second quarter. That allowed Alabama to take a 28-7 lead into halftime, and they were never giving that up. They end up just hanging on for a 35-17 win. They were only, both teams really struggled in the red zone. You can see Houston 2 touchdowns on 6 trips, Bama 3 touchdowns on 6 trips, but no turnovers. They just ended up missing some field goals and things of that nature. So it's a tough day for both of those teams in the red zone. But Josh Jacobs, of course, for Bama, went out with an injury early in the second quarter, but he still had a nice game. John Phillips led the way, receiving 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. You had De'Aaron King throw for 334 yards and 4 touchdowns. Just a great game for the Crimson Tide, and so that means the College Football Playoff National Championship will see number 1 seeded Alabama take on number 2 seeded Pitt in a fantastic matchup. It's going to be fantastic. Both teams have been very good defensively. You can see yardage totals on the defensive side of the football fairly similar, though Pitt's had a very good rush defense. Bama's had what looks to be a good pass defense by yardage, even though in terms of overall rankings, their rush defense is maybe considered better. I think the 2 real showdowns are going to be Pitt's pass defense versus Bama's pass offense, and Pitt's pass offense versus Bama's pass defense. The one thing with Alabama, though, their rushing offense is very good. They are very, very deep on that side of the football. They have Josh Jacobs, who can run the ball, Brian Hand, the backup, Darion Williams Jr., the true freshman, who is the 3rd stringer, plus De'Aaron King, of course, has like 93 speed from the quarterback position as well. So they have a lot of options, and it's going to make some really interesting matchups on that side of the ball. To take a look at how we got here, of course, Pitt started off with 3 non-conference wins. Then they went on a great conference winning spree before taking on Notre Dame at home and losing in a very tight battle. They rebounded with 5 straight wins, or 6 straight wins now at this point, including the bowl game victory over West Virginia to put them in the national title game. Bama started out very, very brightly, blew out South Carolina in their season opener, had to scrape by against Michigan State, but then things were very easy from then on out. FCS win. They beat Vanderbilt. They smoked Ole Miss, who's now number 8 in the country and is playing in a college football or a New Year's Six bowl. Easy win over Akron. Easy win over Arkansas. Beat UConn, had a little bit of an easier time with them than we did. Their tightest game was against LSU, 34-27 against the defending national champions, who of course will not repeat this year. Then they beat Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Auburn, all fairly handily, and they took care of business for the second time against South Carolina. Then beat Houston, meaning Alabama is the only remaining unbeaten heading into the national title game. For Pitt, our leaders, of course, Kenny Pickett, well on his way to potentially 4,000 career passing yards, or 4,000 yards this season, which would be a record for Pitt football. They've never had a 4,000-yard passer. 37 touchdowns is the record for passing touchdowns in a season as well, so off chance he could hit that. C.J. London, big game for him, could push him to a 1,000-yard season, and Jay Keys just 4 catches away from 100 on the season, which a Pitt receiver has never touched in their career. For one single season's work. Jake Keys, of course, now the single season receiving leader. De'Aaron King, 46 touchdowns on the year, 5 interceptions, 3,400 passing yards. I mean, he's been an absolute stallion. That's why he finished 4th in the Heisman voting. Josh Jacobs is their number 1 running back, but he's not. It's been a bit of a committee type aspect because they've had some injuries, so they have had multiple players start games this season. Yusuf Miller, their top receiver. As we take a look at Bama, so you can get a feel for who we'll be going up against here in the national title game. Of course, De'Aaron King, like we mentioned, 46 touchdowns against just 5 interceptions. He's only been sacked 18 times as well. The Bama offensive line has been very good. But we've got 2 guys who basically have that number of sacks by themselves. I think Wolfgang has 14 on the season. Darren Toth has 15 on the season. And so that means that Pitt really has some guys who can get after the quarterback. And that's the big thing they'll want to do is slow down De'Aaron King because we know how versatile and how deadly he can be. Like I mentioned, Alabama, 4 different guys with over 380 yards rushing on the season. Josh Jacobs is the leader in the clubhouse. Brian Hando right behind him. Williams has been good. De'Aaron King has over 500 yards. Same thing with the receivers. They don't have one out-and-out superstar. Yusuf Miller, 68 receptions for almost 1,000 yards is their number 1 guy. But John Phillips is the speed guy, most yards per catch for them as far as guys that have more than 10 catches, 13 touchdowns on the season. Philip Smith, the sophomore, 10 touchdowns on the season. So those are their big play guys who can really make stuff happen that we'll have to watch out for. The other thing, you look at their line, they're all unbelievable. Harris, Simmons, Ingram, Arnold, Smith, even their backup center McGee, 19 pancakes against, no sacks against. Smith, probably their one weak link. He's the right guard. And he's like 69 overall, but he still has been incredible this year. That Alabama line has just linked up really well and built an incredible unit. When we look at Alabama defensively, DeMarcus Johnson, probably their most intimidating defensive presence, 6.5 sacks on the season, 20 tackles for loss. He's their leading total tackler as well, even though Ben Davis has the most solo tackles on the season, and he's probably one of the top defenders in college football. 99 overall for the redshirt senior. He's the leader of their defense and a guy that we'll have to watch out for. They don't have a ton of interceptions, which I found interesting to see, about 10 or 11. I think 10. If you do the quick math right there. Joe Kelly, who's actually their backup strong safety because of an injury, he's been playing pretty much all season, has been very, very good for them. Maiden is their number one corner. 13 deflections on the year. He's a beast, All-American player. There's a ton of All-Americans. You can look when you look at Alabama's roster. Anybody with an A next to them has been an All-American this season, and they have a lot of them. So it's going to be a very, very tough matchup against some really, really talented Alabama players. Even their kicker is really, really good when we see the kicking stats here in a second. They have a 96 overall kicker. Alabama, that's usually their one weak point, is their kicker usually stinks. Instead, they have Chris Davis. He's only 11 for 14 on the season, hasn't had to take too many, but he can make long ones. His 54s is long. Mike Harrison's a solid punter as well. Darion Williams, one returner of the year this season, so we'll like to keep the ball away from the true freshman, who's been very dangerous in that regard. 2 touchdowns on returns this year. So, I mean, Alabama can beat you in so many ways. It's not just the amount of talent they have offensively. Their defense is really good. And then they can return the ball. They're good on special teams. It's going to be very tough. We will still be missing, of course, Tyquan Sutton. He's been out for the entire season after that spinal injury. Hopefully, we'll see at the end of the year if he'll have an opportunity to return to the football team, but that remains to be seen. For Bama, they will be missing Jeremiah Smith, normally their top strong safety. He's out for the season with an upper arm fracture, and so we'll see Joe Kelly in there instead, not the guy who likes to throw at everybody, which I quite enjoyed. If you guys watched that Dodgers-Houston game, not to date this, but a little bit topical to bring up. Now, we look at Alabama's roster. I mean, they're incredible. You go down their roster, you're still in the 80s when you're halfway through the team. You're in the 90s, a third of the way through the team still. They're very, very good. De'Aaron King, of course, at quarterback. What more can you say about the guy? 99 overall. He's put an incredible season together, but he's got 91 throw power, 91 accuracy, 93 speed, 88 awareness. He can do it all. He maybe doesn't have a huge arm, but he's certainly got a big enough arm for what they're going to ask of him. His backup is Matt Perry, the true freshman from Louisiana. He has no speed at all, so if he did have to come in the game, that would help us out. We wouldn't have to worry about the quarterback runs. But, of course, De'Aaron King is always going to be a threat for us. Joshua Jacobs, Brian Hand, Darion Williams, 3 incredible players. Darion Williams was actually one of the generated freshmen that I built. He's 88 overall as a true freshman. He's going to be incredible. Brian Hand may go to the draft this year. We'll see if he does. Darion Williams will be their starter at running back. If not, he'll be their number 2 next season. And he's had significant playing time this season as well. Interestingly, they have Tyrone Woods, the redshirt sophomore in their team. He's from Lower Burrell, which is a Pittsburgh suburb. So he's actually from the Pittsburgh area. He's on Alabama. We're going to hope to knock him off here in the national title game. When you look at Bama's receivers, they're good. They're not superstars. John Phillips is the guy I'm really going to watch out for, though. He's got the speed, 88 overall, very, very talented player. Yusuf Miller's good, but he's more of a possession guy. Same with Phillip Smith, 89 speed, solid player. Hamilton's good as well, 91 speed, 83 overall. So they do have some talent, but their weapons aren't incredible. I mean, they're better in overall than what our corners are, just because we have one corner that's 94 overall or whatever Kaiser Artis-Scott is, and then beyond that we're 79, 78, things of that nature. But they don't overpower us too terribly. Marcelo James is going to be the guy to really watch out for, though. 89 overall from tight end. That means we'll have the likes of Jason Jordan, Chase Pine, Barry Jenkins in coverage on him. Tight ends, if a team focuses on them, seem to kill us, okay? We've been lucky that we haven't had too many tight ends beat us badly this year. That's the one thing to really watch out for. Another thing you'll notice when looking at this Alabama team, they're really young. Junior, Lawrence Simmons, All-American, 92 overall. He's a junior. Lee Smith, the sophomore, he's their worst overall guy, 69 overall. He's the one guy we'll look to take advantage of. David Ingram, junior, 89 overall. The left side of their line was, I think, an 80s and a high 70s guy, and they were sophomores or something of that nature. So their whole team is so young. DeMarcus Johnson, 89 overall, 6.5 sacks, junior, from New Roads, Louisiana. He's a beast. their whole team is really young. They don't have a ton of seniors other than, of course, the quarterback, Derek King. Newby there you saw is a senior, Justin Newby, the defensive end. Ben Davis, of course, at middle linebacker is a senior. Their one corner is a senior. But otherwise, their team is very young. Quincy Bailey, I didn't bring him up. He had 3 sacks against Houston in the college football playoff semifinal. He's going to be a huge guy to watch out for. Cameron Porter, our left guard, is going to have a day trying to contain him. So that should be a fun one to see how that's able to play out. Like I mentioned, Ben Davis at middle linebacker is an absolute monster. And the other thing you'll notice with this Alabama lineup, they have a lot of speed as well. They're outside linebackers, which are going to be the guys that will be out in coverage on our tight ends, on our running backs. They'll be the ones trying to make tackles on our running backs. They're very fast, so they're going to be very good in pursuit. It's going to put a lot of onus on us to see how well we can get the running game going here to try and make Alabama pay. Just like I'm talking about, Travis Sanders here, the junior, 88 speed, 86 overall, so he's going to be very good. Jared Maiden, of course, is going to be the guy that's going to match up with Jay Keys most likely, 94 speed, 94 overall. Corey Marshall, also 94 speed, 89 overall, the junior. He'll likely see time against Benjamin Ogden. Billy Thomas, though, 91 speed, but 80 overall, the true freshman. Very good corner for a freshman. He's most likely going to be matched up on Paul Lease, and Paul Lease has been very good lately. He's been very consistent. I think he has 16 catches in the last 3 games. I think he could be a big key for us to try and make an impact. KJ Welsh will probably see some time against him as well, and that'll be a great opportunity for a mismatch. Aaron Robinson, free safety, beast, 94 overall. And then, like I said, Joe Kelly, who's their backup strong safety, the junior, he's an impact player right now. The only thing he doesn't really have is speed, but he's tied for their team lead in interceptions. He's got a touchdown on the season. He's a hard hitter, can jar the football loose. Very, very good player to watch out for. So this Alabama team doesn't really have a weakness. I think the only thing you can maybe say they're weak at would be the offensive line in 1 or 2 spots where they have like a mid to high 70s guy and a 69 overall right guard. So if Darren Toth and Sean Wolfgang can prey on those couple of guys, that could be a difference in this game. But it's going to be an incredible showdown. I can't wait for you guys to get to watch it, and it's going to be so much fun to play. I'm really excited to get the game underway and have a chance to win our first ever national title and first national title for Pitt since 1976. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments who you think's going to win. Hashtag it H2P, baby. Hail to Pitt. We'll see you very soon for the national championship. Take care. Bye-bye.